Here's an example of cell phones. Something we've habitualized. That is, you've got a habit. You're trained to use a cell phone. It's your little friend. It takes photos. It records things. It's got video games on it, photos, movies you watch. The center of your life is a little portable computer that also is a high-powered microwave transmitter that around computers and wiring. Ever notice it makes other electronics make noise, speaker systems buzz? You hear it every minute or so. That's it logging back in with a cell tower telling the NSA where you are under federal law. Oh, yeah, Total Grid. They knew when they got it approved back in the 80s that it gave laboratory rats brain tumors and other tumors. They would just keep cell phones on a few hours a day. Back then, the battery pack, transmitter units on a few hours a day near the rats. And then they would test it with rats of the same type, being fed the same thing and the same lighting and the same food and the same vitamins in another facility next door. And they would find that, depending on the study, the power of the cell phone, these rats were completely fried. And they found it heated up their brains. They found it gave them brain tumors. They found it gave them all different forms of blood diseases, different types of blood cancers. On and on and on. Thousands of studies. This was heavily studied by the British and Dutch and Swedish and U.S. government, Canadian government, before they allowed it. Because they knew about people at radar installations and microwave installations, the old things in, Korean War, people cooking their food on top of them, just the radio waves cooking food, and, how the guys would all go home 2 years later and die of cancer, and they taught them, hey, you got to stay away from this. But knowing all this, what'd they do? They stuck cell towers on almost every major private school and public school in the country to, quote, get some money. And now they give the children as young as 3-4 years old their own cell phones for their safety. It's advertised. Get a family plan. Give your children cell phones. Look, if you're in the habit of using a cell phone and you want to die of a brain tumor, an excruciating, horrible death, that's your business. I've got a cell phone. But because I've read all the studies about it frying your testicles, it is in another room, sitting on a table, charged, off, and I will check messages on it once a day. The problem is I've gotten habitualized to not using it now, instead of the way I was before, and so I might use it 2 or 3 times a week, and I forget to get the messages off of it now. So that's a problem. I've missed a couple coast-to-coast AM interviews because, by the way, I'm on 3 Hours Wednesday, because they'll call up spur of the moment, and I'm not answering my cell phone. My wife's not listening to the phone at home, and I missed the interview. But, hey, familiarity breeds contempt, so whatever. The point is that I have gotten away from using it, because I made a commitment about 1.5 years ago to really cut back. And so it's a convenience. It's good for emergencies. Sometimes I use it when I have to. I was late to pick up Jim Mars yesterday, like 5 minutes late. And so I called him at, the hotel he was at and said, I'll be about 5 minutes late. Walk out at 1:05 instead of 1. And he came walking out right as I pulled up. So I did use a cell phone. And then I was going to be home late because I've been doing late interviews with him after the radio show. And I was going to take him to eat before he left back to Fort Worth, or where he lives outside Fort Worth. So I did call my wife, 60-second call. Hey, I'll be home about 9 or 10. So that's too much, though, because I noticed my children see me using it, so they're going to habitualize thinking it's okay to use it. Here's an example. Rob Jacobson, right outside the studio, has a edit bay cubicle, and he has a nice phone, long-distance, international calling, everything on it. He will not use it. Now, before he had by his cubicle, another cubicle that was kind of shared in this area of the office that has a phone, and he wouldn't use that. So I got him his own phone right there at his desk, and he never uses it. It's got dust on it. He's out there right now using it because he's in a habit. They'll tell you half of cigarette addiction isn't even the nicotine. It's the breathing in. It's the putting something in your mouth. They'll tell you chew gum, use a toothpick. I've quit smoking many times and gone back many times. The point is, I don't quit with gum or, the patches. I quit with a toothpick, chewing on it. Or pretending I'm smoking. And then it's easy. Until I just am out late night working and go, okay, give me a cigarette. And then it's over. And yeah, I'll just drink one beer. Those ice cold beers look good. Friends will talk me into going to see a fight or something at a restaurant bar, and everybody's drinking big, tall, frosty beer, and I'll drink one, and then 3 days later I'm drinking Jack Daniels. But anyways, that's how habits work. You've got to stay away from the cell phones. But hey, if you're going to use cell phones and use them all day long, you might as well just start smoking cigarettes, drinking whiskey, and I'm joking, but the point is, they're worse for you than that, and there's been studies on that. I mean, it's far worse. But cell phones are bad for you. I mean, cops know radar guns are frying their testicles. They don't care. They keep using them. They're in the habit of doing it. They're like, I'll just be macho. It's fine. No, it's time to say no to all this. It's time. These radiation devices, that's what they do. They emit waves, high-powered waves. You need to just be aware of it. And you need to know that even if you've got hands-free and the cell phone's like 2-3 feet away from you, it's emitting. So they don't charge you for those minutes, but it's always transmitting back home, intermittently, every minute. So I keep the cell phone off. That's when it's not transmitting. And I only use it when I need to. And that's bad enough, because now there's all the other frequency pollution going on. You're not going to have big, giant wireless units in my new office and save money. I'm not. We're wiring the whole thing, because those wireless systems are bad for you as well. Nothing like a cell phone, but it's still bad. So children who use mobile phones are 5 times more likely to develop brain tumors. This is why I wish I was on 500 radio stations. This is why 60-something isn't enough. This is. I mean, I want to warn people. I want to warn them. Children who use mobile phones are 5 times more likely to develop brain tumors. A study suggests that children who use mobile phones are 5 times more likely to develop a type of brain tumor. Children who use mobile phones are 5 times more likely to develop a type of brain tumor. Research has shown, the Swedish study indicates that under 16s are at risk for radiation from mobile phones because their brains or nervous systems are still developing. Because their heads are smaller and their skulls are thinner, the radiation penetrates deeper into their brains. It goes on. After presenting their findings, the scientists said that children under 12 should only use mobile phones for emergencies. They added that teenagers should use hands-free devices and try to restrict themselves to texting. But other researchers, it goes on to say, cast doubts on their findings, saying that mobile devices have not been on the market long enough to test accurately the risk associated with them. About 90% of the under 16s in Britain have a mobile phone, as do 40% of the primary school children. Good God. And man, they'll all basically get brain tumors, and they'll blame it on the parents or something and say they shook them and arrest them. That's what they do. It just goes on and on. It was held at the London's Royal Society by the Radiation Research Trust, independent organization. It goes on. Researching electromagnetic radiation effects. Here's another one. This cites a whole bunch of big studies. Daily Tech. New study shows cell phones are no friends to your testicles. They use the scientific name of gonads. There's been plenty of hearty debate between cell phone proponents and critics about potential cancer risk. After one study claimed cell phones had more detrimental health effects than smoking. There you go, what I mentioned earlier. A major cancer doctor came forward stating that there was strong upcoming evidence of cell phone cancer link. And it goes on. Now another new study has been released citing a direct, decidedly different hazard of cell phone use. Well, there's a whole bunch of these. The new study shows that cell phones are no friends to the testicles. And it goes on to talk about how it literally fries them. Well, anything with radiation, any of the fields of radiation, the whole spectrum, fast-growing cells. That's why, if you're in the fallout of a nuke, your teeth fall out, your intestines start bleeding. They've got fast-growing cells. Fingernails fall out. Fast-growing cells. Well, the testicles are producing sperm. Millions of them every week. And so they're even outside the body so they can have a cooler temperature to operate in. Okay, it's basically ovaries on the outside, but a woman's born with all of her eggs intact, which is an age factor. Not a lot of age factor in men's sperm. There's a big age factor in women's eggs, mainly space radiation, X-raying you naturally. So we're designed to handle some of this. but you add a whole bunch more into it, you got a major problem. And it just goes into it. Folks, testicular cancer is no joke, and so you just need to be made aware of that. Okay? All right, I'm going to come back and go to John, David, Jeff, Jim, Matthew, I promise, on the other side. Here's another one. School children should be given smart drugs in a bid to boost brain power. I love it. They got 3-year-old girls going into puberty, and so they give them hormones to block it instead of getting the girls off the GMO food and GMO milk that's got the growth hormone. And the plastics, which is an absolute fact, the plastics leaching and makes the girls hyper female and the boys feminine.